Okay, let's dive right into this deep dive explainer. Today, we are exploring something absolutely fascinating. We're looking at exactly how the 905 Wood Digital Refinery operationalizes cutting-edge AI to definitively secure Ontario's industrial leadership in the global circular bioeconomy. And look, we're not just talking about traditional recycling here, not even close. We are looking at a masterclass in data synthesis and full-scale industrial transformation. By leveraging the Google TurboQuant Pixel 10 Pro with Android 16, running a highly advanced light RT AI stack, 905 Wood is quite literally turning the absolute chaos of construction waste into high-purity digital assets. It's a real game changer. To really wrap our heads around this massive influx of technical intelligence, we're going to trace a strict chronological narrative. We'll start with the geopolitical waste crises of 2025, look at the immense physical quality gap in the industry, and then break down the exact architecture of the Sentient Bridge. From there, we'll get into the weeds of edge sensor operations, explainable compliance, and finally, how all of this converges ahead of the impending regulatory deadlines of 2029.
First up, we really need to understand the transboundary waste crisis that started this whole chain reaction.
To put things into perspective, the historical baseline here reveals a rapidly escalating geopolitical pressure cooker. This pressure essentially forced the waste industry to evolve overnight from simple point A to point B logistics into high-tech data refinement. The old days of simply throwing things in a hole in the ground? Yeah, those were abruptly ended by macroeconomic and political forces. We're looking at a true burn-the-boats urgency that was triggered by some massive, highly publicized environmental incidents. Think about the East Palestine and Manhattan Project waste controversies. Those events definitively orphaned the industrial, commercial, and institutional sectors from municipal safety nets. By 2025, amidst escalating cross-border tariff disputes, citizens and local governments, especially in places like Michigan and Quebec, began aggressively pushing back against transboundary hazardous waste shipments. The political tolerance just vanished. And then, when municipalities stepped away entirely from commercial recycling in 2026, thousands of businesses were left totally stranded. Actually, scratch that, it was worse than stranded. The traditional dump and tip model officially died right then and there.
So that brings us to the core physical problem, the bioeconomy quality gap.
This is the fundamental physical friction point of the entire industry. There is a massive, almost insurmountable chasm between what a demolition site produces and what high-tech chemical off-takers actually need. On one side, you have the muddy, completely unregulated chaos of a construction dumpster. We're talking wood mixed with drywall, lead paint, arsenic-lace-treated lumber, and it's often holding something like 40% moisture. It's a regulatory nightmare. But on the flip side, the bioeconomy, meaning the companies using advanced pyrolysis to create high-value carbon assets, demands extreme, near-pharmaceutical precision. They need feedstock with less than 10% moisture and under 1% contamination. Think about it. If you feed that chaotic demolition debris into those highly sensitive chemical reactors, you don't just ruin the final product, you literally create toxic waste. The industry desperately needed a sentient bridge to connect these two total extremes safely. Which leads us perfectly into how you actually go about architecting that sentient bridge.
You absolutely cannot bridge this quality gap with manual labor. It's impossible. You must deploy a rigorous 5-layer digital middleware stack to translate physical, chaotic atoms into protected, verifiable digital assets. You need a 905 Wood digital refinery workflow that intelligently filters the noise right at the physical point of origin. And this exhaustive distributed compute architecture tells us exactly how they pull it off. Look at the incredible horsepower being deployed here. The Google TurboQuant Pixel 10 Pro, running on Android 16 with the custom Tensor G5 chip, acts as the tactile sensory edge. It utilizes the light RTI stack to run Gemini 3.5 Pro and Gemini 3 Flash natively, meaning it executes sub-millisecond quantized processing without even needing an internet connection. Then, the heavy intelligence lifts happen up in the cloud. You've got Claude Opus 4.8 and Claude Sonnet 4.6 acting as this ultimate legal engine, capable of parsing a 1 million token context window instantly. Finally, GPT-OSS 120B manages the complex financial routing. It is an absolute masterpiece of specialized AI orchestration.
Now let's zoom in on exactly how this hardware operates in the field with edge sensor fusion operations. This is where the silicon literally meets the sawdust. To understand how this tech interfaces with the incredibly messy reality of a demolition site, we just have to look at the digital refinery application workflow UI/UX. It starts seamlessly with a 905 woodworker utilizing the smartphone's quantized models to instantly triage a load of wood, entirely independent of spotty cellular coverage. The Google TurboQuant Pixel 10 Pro locks in exact GPS coordinates while Gemini visually scans the bin. It classifies the wood as clean or treated in under 2 seconds flat. But, and this is crucial, visual confirmation is only the very first layer of defense.
Because visual data can be deceiving, right? This is where it gets incredibly cool. The Gemini 3.5 Pro multimodal audio sensors actively neutralize what we call chemical intent hijacks. The system refuses to trust visual data alone if the surrounding audio context screams danger. You see, in environmental law, you have to assume danger until proven safe. If the site supervisor checks a clean box on a form but casually mentions the word demolition while standing near the phone, the microphone captures that context. The AI then actively overrides a clean visual score. It executes the precautionary principle, immediately forcing the load into a high-risk category that mandates intense secondary scientific screening. This is the definition of software prioritizing safety over speed.
And for that secondary screening, we turn to hard science. Smartphones cannot see heavy metals. That is just a scientific fact. So 905 wood uses X-ray fluorescence, or XRF guns, at their central physical processing hubs to bombard the incoming wood. They are hunting for invisible elemental signatures like arsenic and chromium to ensure the toxicity characteristic leaching procedure limits remain strictly below this absolute 2.5 milligram per liter threshold. If the wood reads even a fraction above 2.5, boom, it is instantly flagged and isolated as hazardous waste. So we have all this amazing edge data, but what do we do with it? That leads us to agentic RAG, explainable compliance. Welcome to the absolute brain of the digital refinery. Capturing all this sensory data is completely useless if you cannot translate it into a bulletproof legal defense for the waste generator. This is where Claude Opus 4.8 and Claude Sonnet 4.6 flex their massive context windows. They dynamically parse the absolute entirety of the Ontario Government OREG 3047, that's the General Waste Management Code, and the Schedule 4 leachate criteria in real time. By utilizing Alloy DBAI with a high-speed scan-in index, this agentic RAG setup doesn't just block a bad load of wood, it cross-references the exact sensory failure against the complete provincial environmental legal code, generating what is known as explainable compliance.
The agentic RAG system acts as a highly sophisticated legal engine. It completely avoids those frustrating black box AI rejections by generating legally grounded citations that actively protect the site supervisor's liability. When a client gets a rejection, they don't get some confusing generic error code. They receive a precise, factual legal document. This totally shifts the site supervisor's role from a simple waste manager into a highly informed logistics auditor, completely backed by automated, deeply researched legal reasoning.
And to secure these crucial certificate of origin, verification, and compliance protocols, this back-end MLOps infrastructure essentially creates an immutable time machine. Orchestrated by Google Cloud's Dataplex and Vertex AI pipelines, the system generates a static graph of every single action. Meaning, if a government auditor comes knocking 3 years from now, 905 Wood can produce output PDF documentation demonstrating precisely why a specific load was certified as bioeconomy feedstock, fully protecting their clients. It allows auditors to trace any decision back to the specific AI model and exact legal text active at that precise millisecond. Let's tie all of this incredible technology together and look at how it's securing Ontario's industrial leadership. These compliance mechanisms completely alter the fundamental financial logic of the North American logistics market. Utilizing GPT-OSS 120B as the complex financial ledger routing agent, the request for quote, or RFQ system, dynamically decouples billing. It proves exactly how sorting clean wood avoids heavy $60 levies and unlocks highly lucrative carbon dividends. Think about it. Traditional dumping is purely a massive expense. But with the digital refinery, if you prove the wood is clean, you completely sidestep the $60 per ton circle levy. And even more importantly, you can now tap into the voluntary carbon market, where high-quality biochar credits can trade for up to $350 a ton. You are literally transforming a physical liability into a hard, tradable financial asset. And here is the world-changing math behind it all. Through this precise pyrolysis-ready validation, every ton of dry wood theoretically yields 0.75 tons of CO2 equivalent. It translates that strict regulatory compliance directly into a highly competitive, production-ready revenue stream. The 905 wood system automatically calculates this theoretical yield for every single validated load, sharing the dividend back with the generator. It's a behavioral economics masterstroke, isn't it? It perfectly aligns environmental responsibility with brute force capitalist incentives.
And time is absolutely of the essence. As this timeline relentlessly proves, adopting the Sentient Bridge is not optional. Because by 2029, dumping wood in Ontario won't just be financially ruinous, it will be completely 100% illegal. The regulatory net is rapidly closing in. The massive hazardous waste landfill in Blainville is hitting capacity, the Circle mixed waste levies are arriving, and that 2029 rewood ban, it is absolute. 905 Wood isn't just offering a nice-to-have software product here. They have architected the absolute prerequisite for industrial survival in the province. Well, thank you for joining this deep dive explainer. As 905 Wood definitively secures Ontario's industrial leadership in the global circular bioeconomy, we want to leave you with a massive question to ponder. What other global industries are ripe for this kind of digital refinement? Think about plastics, textiles, concrete. Once you deploy the right multimodal sensor fusion and agentic legal intelligence, literally everything starts to look like a highly valuable resource just waiting to be refined. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we will catch you in the next explainer.